Hello and welcome. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Gautam Roy, and coming up in the next hour, India's hockey team bags the nation's 4th bronze medal at the Paris Olympics. Prime Minister Modi speaks to the team and congratulates them. India's golden boy Neeraj Chopra is in action tonight as he eyes his 2nd historic gold. Muhammad Yunus is sworn in as Bangladesh's interim government head. Protest spearheading student leaders also join his team. India says it wants law and order to be restored in the country. It's the 3rd day of Ukraine's largest incursion into Russia at Kursk. Army's video shows Russian border guards surrendering at the Shuja border crossing. 3 sold-out Taylor Swift concerts in Vienna cancelled after authorities bust a 19-year-old youth's IS-inspired plan to bomb or knife fans outside the venue. First up, Nobel Peace Prize winner Muhammad Yunus is now in charge of Bangladesh as the head of its new interim government. 2 key student leaders are also part of his team. They've all been sworn in, and all eyes will now be on how they get law and order control in India's neighbouring country. That will be the first order of the day as far as this interim government is concerned. More in this report.
Muhammad Yunus.
And with that, Bangladesh enters a new phase in its political journey. The interim leadership of Muhammad Yunus offers hope for a more equitable and democratic future. After weeks of violent protests, 2 key student leaders are part of the caretaker government. Earlier in the day, calling hatred and unruliness as enemies of democracy, Yunus said that Bangladesh is all set to create its new dawn of victory.
Our first order of business should be to restore law and order. Until this is taken care of, we will not be able to proceed to further improve the situation. You have shown faith in me, and the students have reassured me to carry out that duty. We have to protect this freedom, not just protect it. We have to ensure that it reaches every single household. Otherwise, the freedom will have no meaning.
India is closely monitoring the situation in the neighbouring nation as incidents on attack of minorities in Dhaka were reported. With the close contact with Bangladesh Army, India is patrolling its borders and keeping a close watch on any unauthorized entry of individuals.
Certain steps have been taken by groups and organizations, and we welcome that. But we want that the law and order situation in the country improves so that normal life can begin. We are closely monitoring the situation. We are in touch with them to ensure the safety and security of our missions, of our personnel who are manning those missions, and also for the safety and security of Indian nationals. Interest of the people of Bangladesh is foremost in our minds, in the mind of the government, and it's so important for government of India and for the people of India.
With the swearing in of the interim dispensation, Bangladeshis are hopeful of a better future for their country.
The example that the young generation has set of giving this country a rebirth, we are expecting that Yunus will be able to take it further to reconstruct our country.
We want conflict-free Bangladesh where no Awami League, no VNP and no other political parties can abuse power. I want to forget the past and move on.
I earnestly request the new government to put an end to bad politics in the country so the poor working class can live in peace.
Dhaka and several other cities saw weeks of unrest with mass protests and violence over job quota, which snowballed into a larger anti-government revolution. It forced Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to resign and take refuge in neighbouring India. Bureau Report, DD India.
And the High Commission of India in Bangladesh, in coordination with its army and authorities, has facilitated safe passage of Indian nationals to the borders as well. The mission has advised on transport and movement issues and also coordinated with airport and airlines for flights. The mission has ensured that airlines continue to operate to ensure that people are not left stranded. They've also facilitated movement of Indian nationals across the land borders. Mission Control Room has attended to over 350 calls in the past 2 days. They've also facilitated consular cases including immigration and providing emergency certificate to those Indian nationals who are travelling in emergency cases. And joining us live now is DD India's Bangladesh correspondent Naval Singh Parmar. Good evening to you, Naval. We've all just witnessed a huge moment for Bangladesh. What sort of steps can we expect from this interim government considering the kind of team which has been sworn in?
Well, the first challenge or step the interim government needs to take is to establish law and order situation in Bangladesh, as the police force which were involved in maintaining the law and order situation earlier in the Israeli government regime. Since last few days, due to some attacks on police station and police force, the morale of police is very low, and many people have fear that they may get injured or they may be attacked. So police force is mostly absent from the duty, and there is a media address from the Army General that the police will start performing their duty next 1 or 2 days. And people will also understand that all the police officers were not involved again in the crime against the protester. There were a few elements maybe there in police force also. But once the police take the position on the street, then the law and order situation will be established. Meanwhile, army is trying their best to establish law and order situation in the country. They have issued a hotline, helpline numbers, and they are trying their best. And things are getting normal day by day. So first challenge is to establish a law and order. There are many incidents reported of loot and dacoity and the thefts and some incidents, unwanted incidents with the minority also. So this is the first challenge for the interim government led by the Professor Yunus.
Certainly. Now, apart from the law and order situation, which other challenges confront Bangladesh, which an economist like Muhammad Yunus will prioritize tackling along with his team?
Actually, during this moment got momentum from the socio-economic issue of the Bangladesh. In last 2 years, after COVID and then after the Russia-Ukraine, where Bangladesh economy were facing many trouble and many issues, and particularly they were facing the forex reserve issue. So there were a ban on non-essential or kind of import. So due to that, there were a huge inflation in the commodities or consumer goods and the other essential commodities. So inflation, price rise, devaluation of Taka. 2 years back, it was almost the same with the Indian rupees. Both are having a 80 rupees dollar or 75 to 80 rupees dollar, and at the time Taka was also on same level. But now Taka to dollar ratio is 125 rupees in the crab market, and officially is around 120. So that amount of devaluation happened with the Taka, and during this time the salary or minimum wages for the common people have not increased proportionately. So their purchasing power reduced very much, and that was one of the major factor behind this movement. The economic factors and people's life were in a difficulty because the unemployment, price rise, inflation, and the reduction in the purchasing power. There were anger among the people, and that is why common people followed the call of the student coordinator, and once they gave a call to have a protest, then common people joined the student, and earlier it was a quota issue, and then it became a political issue, and it was due to the issue with the related with the people's life, daily life.
Certainly. Well, let's hope that things are brought under control very soon, and the team that is being led by Mohammad Yunus can move forward as well to tackle the kind of issues that Bangladesh faces. A lot of disruptions happened, as you mentioned, because of the recent agitation and this change of government as well, and let's hope that things are brought back to normal soon. Thanks a lot for joining us, Naval Singh Parmar. Now, President of India, Draupadi Murmu, is on a 3-day visit to the island nation of New Zealand. She held bilateral talks with the Governor-General and Prime Minister of New Zealand. The President also announced that New Zealand has joined the International Solar Alliance, which is an India initiative at the global stage, and that a bilateral customs cooperation agreement between New Zealand and India has been signed. The President also be addressing the Indian community in one of the largest cities of the country, Auckland. Here's a report on the visit filed by DD India's Dibendu Mondal.
President Draupadi Murmu embarked on a 3-day visit to New Zealand on Wednesday. She was accorded the Guard of Honour at the Government House. She was welcomed by the Governor-General of New Zealand, Cindy Kiro, with a traditional gesture. A traditional welcome performance depicting traditions from the indigenous Maori tribe of New Zealand was also showcased to the President. The President of India, Draupadi Murmu, also had a meeting with the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Christopher Luxon, at the Government House. Taking forward the cooperation on renewable energy sector initiated by India, President Murmu announced that New Zealand has formally joined the International Solar Alliance. She also informed that India and New Zealand has signed a bilateral customs agreement that would improve bilateral trade between two countries. President Draupadi Murmu also participated in the New Zealand International Education Conference in Wellington. India was the guest of honour country at the conference. The President also paid floral tributes to the statue of Mahatma Gandhi located at the outer lawns of the Wellington railway station.
Heartfelt gratitude to Education New Zealand and to the Government of New Zealand for honouring India in such a special way. Let us continue to work together to build bridges of knowledge and understanding and for creating world leaders through our educational collaboration.
President Murmu also visited the National War Memorial of New Zealand in the capital city of Wellington. She was presented to a traditional welcome that narrated the valour of fallen soldiers. She laid a wreath in the commemoration of the soldiers that laid their life for the country. A state dinner at the Governor House was also hosted in honour of President Draupadi Murmu by the Governor-General of New Zealand.
Before departing for Timor-Leste on her third leg of the visit, President Murmu tomorrow will attend and in fact participate in an event organised by the Indian community in Auckland. With camera person Rajesh Riki, this is Dibendu Mondal from Wellington in New Zealand for DD India.
India's Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan said on Thursday that global disruptions such as COVID-19 and conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East have presented an opportunity for the Indian defence ecosystem. It can ramp up its defence manufacturing capabilities to make India a net exporter of munitions instead of being an importer. Akshay Dongre reports from Ammo India 2024, an exhibition cum conference organised in Delhi.
Ammunition from bullet of different calibers to mortar shells to anti-aircraft rounds, all on display in a big ammunition exhibition organised in New Delhi. Armed forces officials of several nations attended the event organised by Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. The exhibition, named Ammo India 2024, was organised with the goal of highlighting India's rise as a major manufacturing hub for defence equipment.
India has its own share of challenges, security challenges. We have proxy war raised by Pakistan and Jammu and Kashmir, whose sudden escalation we are now seeing in south of Pir Panjal, and the prolonged border dispute with China is yet to abate. These are two major security challenges that we face. The instability in our neighborhood is another cause of concern for us. A strong armed force backed by a strong defense industrial sector is hence a sine qua non.
Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan highlighted the threats of dependence on imports.
For a large nation like India, with plenitude of security problems, it cannot remain dependent on foreign imports for war fighting and sustenance, especially in an environment where the global security environment is in a state of flux and we have live borders at hand.
The Vice Chief of the Indian Army meanwhile talked about the need for self-reliance in making India a major manufacturing hub for defence equipment around the world.
Self-reliance in ammunition is a significant aspect of our national defence strategy. Not only will it ensure that we maintain our strategic autonomy, but also it will stimulate economic growth as also our technological development.
The defence manufacturers meanwhile highlighted the growth story of India's defence manufacturing industry and the growing demand for made-in-India weapons around the world.
Any kind of dependence, especially on wartime stockpiles, can not only be dangerous for a country but also threaten its national security. This is a lesson that India has learned in the past 10 years and has embarked on a journey of self-reliance, especially in the defence sector. With camera person Mukut Sharma, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
And still to come on DD India News are: the UK remains on the alert despite disorder and violence by anti-migrant mobs being halted by tough policing and sentencing, as well as counter-protesters. And the disruptive wait for Iran's retributory attack in the Middle East.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked, we just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, Russian forces have been battling Ukrainian troops for a third day on Thursday after they smashed through the Russian border in the Kursk region. Meanwhile, heavy fighting has been reported near the town of Sudzha, where Russian natural gas flows into Ukraine, raising concerns over a sudden stop to transit flows to Europe. Ukraine's forces released a video which showed Russian border guards surrendering at the Sudzha border. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has cast the Ukrainian attack as a major provocation, and Kursk's governor has said that thousands of residents have been evacuated. The Ukrainian military has remained silent on the Kursk offensive, though President Volodymyr Zelensky praised the Ukrainian army on Thursday for its ability to surprise and achieve results. And let's now take you live to DD India's Dasha Chernashova in Moscow. Good evening to you, Dasha. How is Russia tackling and responding to this latest Ukrainian offensive?
Well, we understand that the fighting has been ongoing throughout Thursday as well, with the Russian Ministry of Defense repeatedly releasing the videos of how they are using artillery as well as aviation to destroy the Ukrainian armed forces that entered the territory of Russia's Kursk region. We understand from the MOD that the advance of the Ukrainian military has been halted, that they have not been able to move any forward, with the Russian Ministry Ministry of Defense confirming that Ukraine has lost up to 600 men in Russia's Kursk region out of 1,000 declared by the Russian Ministry of Defense that have entered this territory. We're also hearing that the authorities in the Kursk region have introduced the state of emergency. They have taken away the people, the civilians who live in the areas adjacent to the Russian-Ukrainian border. But also we are hearing that it has been very loud in the areas close to the Russian border, in the Sudzhinsky district, in the Karenivsky district of the Kursk region. This is where the fighting has been taking place. And also we are hearing from the Russian federal and local authorities that people who have been forced to leave their houses will be provided with all the necessary help. But at the same time, there is the sort of sense that not all the information is coming to the Russians themselves, because there is no clarity as to whether the fighting has concluded or whether it is still ongoing.
It's around a major gas transit point from Russia to Europe as well. Now, how vital is this link to the continent's energy needs, and is it being kept out of harm's way?
Well, that's a very important issue that you are raising. The Sudzha border town is very important for the supply of Russian gas to Europe. It is actually the last operational transshipping point for the Russian natural gas to Europe. But we've heard from the Russian Gazprom, the statement released early in the day, that Russia is supplying the stated volumes of gas through this point. There has been confirmation that Ukraine is transferring the declared amount. So to this moment, we understand it is still operational. There is no clarity as to who actually controls it. There have been some reports that one of the goals of Ukraine could have been this very hub, but also Russia is saying very clearly that Russia will be working very thoroughly to make sure that all of the troops from Ukraine who have made this incursion into the Russian Kursk region are eliminated inside Russia, and Russia will be drawing a very serious lesson from what has happened.
Basha Chernyshova, thank you for joining us from Moscow. Now, the UK government has sent a strong message to those involved in violence across various cities. Amid a series of violent incidents across the UK, Prime Minister Keir Starmer has said that rioters would face lengthy jail terms. More in this report.
Amid a series of riots across Britain and various incidents of arrests, here comes a strong message from the UK government. Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that harsh sentences will be given to those involved in violence.
You saw the sentencing of individuals who've been involved in disorder days ago, some of them getting sentences as long as 3 years. That sent a very powerful message. But I also think that the work that's being done jointly to reassure our communities is becoming more effective.
A Liverpool judge has pronounced 2 years and 8 months jail sentences for 2 men for violent disorder.
And the people doing all of this, that weren't exercising some right to freedom of expression or lawful protest. Rather, they were exploiting the anguish of others, either to further their own twisted ideology, or more likely, as an excuse simply for vandalism, intimidation and violence.
Northern Ireland's First Minister, Michelle O'Neill, has condemned the violent disorder.
It's important that we as political leaders come together with one voice to say no to racism. This is about that strongest of political voice to say no to racism, no to the violence, no to the intimidation of our local community here, and yes to an inclusive society. And that these people that are involved in violent activity do not speak for us, never have and never will.
The unrest has prompted countries to issue advisories for their citizens.
The situation in West Asia is of extreme concern to us, as you know. There are around 3,000 Indian nationals in Lebanon. There are 10,000 people in Iran. Our embassies there, they have issued advisories for people to be alert, to be cautious. And given the situation, we would continue to call for de-escalation and call for restraint, because that is the need of the hour.
Britain has been hit by a series of riots that erupted early last week after 3 young girls were killed in a knife attack in Southport, northwest England. triggering a wave of false messaging online that wrongly identified the suspected killer as an Islamist migrant. Bureau Report, DD India.
That attack in UK Southport took place at a Taylor Swift-themed kids party, and Taylor Swift's official website on Wednesday showed that US singer's Austrian concerts planned for this week had been cancelled due to a terror threat. The main suspect among 3 Austrian teenagers detained over a planned attack on a Taylor Swift concert had pledged allegiance to the Islamic State militant group and had chemical substances at his home, according to authorities.
A 19-year-old Austrian citizen was arrested today in the morning hours in Dernitz. Another related arrest was made today in the afternoon in Vienna. According to the current state of the investigation, the suspects radicalized themselves on the internet. The 19-year-old citizen of Low Austria swore allegiance to the current leader of IS at the beginning of July. Subsequently, the suspects made concrete preparations for a terrorist attack. Based on the current state of the investigation, we assume that the target of the attack were events in the greater Vienna area.
The central suspect, a 19-year-old male with North Macedonian roots, has been detained along with 2 others aged 17 and 15. The Austrian police on Wednesday detained 2 people suspected of plotting the attacks on Taylor Swift's concerts. Meanwhile, the British police have said there was nothing to indicate that a planned attack on a Taylor Swift concert in Vienna, in Austria, would have an impact on her shows at Wembley Stadium in London next week. The situation in the Middle East still remains in suspended animation. The threat of retribution from Iran for the killing of the Hamas chief has led to an exodus from not only Israel but also from Lebanon, where preparations have also been made to tend to casualties if Israel strikes back. Now, a Houthi leader has said that the group will coordinate the attack against Israel along with the so-called Axis of Resistance. Take a look.
Fear looms over Israel, where officials increasingly believe it will be Hezbollah rather than Iran that will be the first to launch a major attack in the coming days. Reports say that Tehran possibly be reconsidering its threatened large-scale onslaught. Meanwhile, an emergency meeting was held by the Organization of Islamic Cooperation to discuss Iran's response on the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh.
This unlawful act not only undermines the prospects for a peaceful resolution, but also exacerbates the tensions within this region. The aggression and violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Islamic Republic of Iran by the assassination of a political leader on its soil is an act that cannot be viewed in isolation.
Amid fears of a full-scale conflict with Israel, Lebanon's healthcare system is equipping hospitals with emergency medical supplies and intensively training staff for potential emergencies. Amid fears of a military escalation, flights continue to arrive at and depart from Lebanon's only international airport, the Beirut International Airport. Arriving passengers have shared their anxieties over the increasing tensions.
We were hesitant about cancelling our trip, but I prayed and decided to come and see my family. I won't stay long. Maybe next year I will stay for longer.
I am traveling today because of atmosphere and pressure we live under. My vacation ends in 10 days, but I am no longer happy. So I have decided to stop my trip and go back to work.
My vacation is over, so we are leaving. We didn't reschedule our flight and we had a great time visiting Beirut. We were a little nervous because people were asking us to leave earlier.
Many airlines globally are revising their schedules to avoid Iranian and Lebanese airspace while also calling off flights to Israel and Lebanon. Egypt has instructed its airlines to avoid Iranian airspace from 01 to 04 hours GMT on Thursday. France has extended cancellation of flights to Lebanon till the 11th of August. United Kingdom and Singapore have also advised its airlines to avoid Lebanon airspace. Italy's ITA Airways have further extended a suspension of its flights to and from Tel Aviv until August 10th to ensure the safety of its passengers and crew. Bureau Report, DD India.
Live by DD India's Trent Murray from Beirut in Lebanon for more on this conflict. Good evening to you, Trent. How disruptive is this bracing for retribution proving to be, not just in Lebanon, but also in Israel and other parts of the region?
Well, it certainly is disruptive, I think, for any foreign nationals that are here, as we heard there in the report. Many of them now scrambling to get out following the advice from their governments, including the government of India. We have to remember it's thought there's roughly 4,000 Indian nationals here right now. They are being told to leave, but it's not necessarily easy because many of those airlines, again, as we heard in the report, are simply not flying here because of safety concerns. And we've seen those warnings now extended all the way through to November in the case of the British. To avoid Lebanese airspace altogether. Now, for people that live here, obviously they don't necessarily have the option to leave, and so they are somewhat on edge right now as Hezbollah, that group based right here in Beirut, is vowing to respond to the Israeli airstrike, which killed one of its senior commanders last week. There are some reports that people have begun stockpiling food, things like flour and diapers and nappies, as well as bread and other essentials. But the government here is saying don't do that because it will cause a run on supermarkets, and they're trying to assure people that there is 3 months worth of food supplies as well as diesel and petrol should there be a conflict. But we are also hearing that they are preparing for the worst despite those warnings. Several major hospitals here have been running intensive training with staff to prepare them for any sort of mass casualty event. And I think it just, speaks to just the level of concern right now, not just here in Lebanon, but in parts of the wider Middle East, that the region could be about to see a major war.
Trent Murray, thank you for joining us from Beirut. And still to come on DD India News Hour. We'll be speaking with former Foreign Secretary and India's High Commissioner to Bangladesh, Harshvardhan Shringla, about what's in store for India's neighbour under its new interim government. And India's central bank keeps its lending rate unchanged at 6.5% for the 9th successive time since February 2023.
This summer, the world turns its eyes to Paris. And DD India brings you every heartbeat, every victory, and every story. Introducing our special coverage of the Paris Olympics. Experience the passion, the drama, and the triumphs. With exclusive reports, expert analysis, and up-to-the-minute updates. Join us as we bring the spirit of the Olympics to your screens.
Get ready for the ultimate sporting extravaganza on DD India.
DD India presents Champions Day Paris. Only on DD India. Every day at 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Let's take you back to our top story, which is Bangladesh, which has a new interim government headed by Nobel Peace Laureate Muhammad Yunus, an economist as well. There's a whole team that's been put in place, and the first order of the day for this government is to restore law and order, a semblance of normalcy to Bangladesh caught in the tumult of, a regime change by a people's movement, so to speak. We have Harshvardhan Shringla with us, former Foreign Secretary of India and former High Commissioner to Bangladesh as well, joining us this evening to talk about it. Welcome to DD India. Mr. Shringla, what do you make of the situation now that has developed in Bangladesh with the Nobel laureate, a peace laureate and economist heading an interim government which needs to do a lot to ensure that Bangladesh gets out of that phase that it's gotten into because of tumultuous events really in the past few weeks, not just days?
Well, Professor Yunus has his work cut out for him. I think the last few days since the exit of Sheikh Hasina has seen a growing law and order situation. There has been, a lot of reports of incidents of looting, burning properties, of the massacre of people, policemen, Awami League cadres, those associated with the previous government, and vulnerable sections of society, including minorities. Even posh localities in Dhaka have been witnessed attacks on a lot of the colonies there. And I think this is obviously something that the new interim administration has to bring under control. I mean, this is clearly the first task before it. And Professor Yunus and his team will need to quickly restore normalcy, ensure that there is a climate of peace and stability, and the violence that is being sort of not sporadic but almost across the country has to be brought under control as soon as possible.
How challenging is that task in itself? Because the police have gone on a strike. They feel that they are themselves not safe with the kind of situation that are developed, although now with a lot of appeals being made by not just Muhammad Yunus, by the army chief as well, even the students' leaders who were spearheading that agitation against we can call it the erstwhile government, now the Hasina government. Do you think that things will fall into place? It's just a matter of time, or it will still prove to be, it will take some doing?
Well, according to some reports, as many as 450 policemen have been killed in this violence, in this recent violence, and obviously it will take some time, to get active duty policemen back in their posts, and of course there is also a loss of confidence in the law and order authorities. So it cuts both ways. The army itself has largely been bystanders to many of these incidents. And it would need certainly a lot of effort by all concerned to get things back on track. I've seen that the army chief himself has made certain changes in the army top hierarchy. They've also replaced the IG of police and the police commissioner of Dhaka. And I think the idea is to have people who can then get the police force working and get law and order back on track.
How critical is the composition of this interim government beyond Muhammad Yunus to this goal of getting things back to a semblance of normalcy?
Well, it depends on who really calls the shots. I mean, you have an interim administration, but it's not clear who, if there is any force behind it. Is it the military? Is it the Jamaat-e-Islami? Is it the BNP, the opposition political party? Is it a combination of those? Who are the forces that control the interim administration? Will they be given a free hand to carry out, their responsibilities? And is it adequate to have a group of, people put together who don't have a mandate, who only have been appointed for an interim period to govern? Would they be up to the task? So these are the questions that are there. I think from every standpoint, obviously there is an expectation that they would minimally, bring the situation back to normal, and then get about the task of running and governing a country as large and populous as Bangladesh is.
Now, India has already expressed its key concerns, like many other countries around the world, that they want to see things come back to normal. And India, of course, has a special relationship with Bangladesh, which goes beyond geographical proximity. So, what would be in India's best interest here?
Well, over the last 15 years or so, we have developed a very multifaceted relationship that goes beyond governments, and clearly it is based on people-to-people contact. Cultural ties of culture, ethnicity, language are very, very important. But in addition to that, there is trade and investment, there is a security cooperation, there is a connectivity, progress made on a range of areas that connect the two countries. And I think it's in the interest of both countries that all of these initiatives that have been put into place and for the mutual benefit of the people of both countries are allowed to progress and develop further. And I think getting the bilateral, very, very extensive bilateral, relationship back on track is also very important.
And that includes trade as well, which too has been disrupted across even land borders. And what about the people-to-people ties? Because we've seen instances of people of Indian origin wanting to get back to the country. Many have already. And that is something that is also being managed on the Indian side, which is what we've been informed about from the Ministry of External Affairs as well. Do you feel that that is something that could become smoother if in case people do want to come at this juncture back to the country?
Well, all of these are important. Trade, Bangladesh has emerged as our 5th largest trading partner, and so a disruption in trade is not good for both countries. As far as people are concerned, I think there are about some 19,000 Indian nationals who live and work in Bangladesh. Many of them, I believe, have returned, and the others who want to return, I think we should be able to facilitate their return. But in addition to that, there's also a concern, that those who are fleeing persecution in Bangladesh and those minorities who are being persecuted should also be allowed. I mean, these are reports that we are seeing, and these are concerns that are being voiced. Clearly, there have been incidents in the past, a number of incidents, right from 1971, 1991. Every decade practically has seen a major, a sort of a program of the human rights violations against the minority community, the Hindu community in Bangladesh. And I think in today's context, in today's India, a much more robust, powerful India, which is not just a regional power, but an aspiring world power under the government of Prime Minister Modi, I don't think we can allow this to happen, and we should not allow this to happen. We should absolutely make it clear to any administration that any widespread attack on minority communities would be the responsibility of the military and the interim administration, all those responsible for governing Bangladesh at this point of time. And the repercussions of any such action would be very, very severe. I think we should absolutely preempt any such incidents from taking place. I mean, of course, needless to say, any such thing would have a huge impact on us, and we as a country and as a people have to make sure that that those protections are afforded to those communities. I mean, after all, the minority community in Bangladesh, which was 35% in 1971 or 1947, has come down to about 9% now. And I don't think that country can see any further dilution in that composition, which makes it a secular country. It will then, change its character completely. And having minorities in Bangladesh gives it the vibrancy and the communal, inter-ethnicities that are very, very important to that composition. And it's in Bangladesh's interest to preserve that character. So we have to make it very clear that that cannot happen under any circumstance. I think that is a very important message. Even as we speak, there are atrocities on minorities, but they are not widespread. We have to prevent any widespread incidents of this nature, which are possible, given the historic
well, it seems that Muhammad Yunus has also said things in a way to address this particular problem. But let me ask you also this: is it even pertinent to ask at this juncture, when will democracy return to Bangladesh?
There are many reports. I mean, clearly, it would take time for any interim administration to prepare an environment conducive for the restoration of democracy, possibly elections held again, if that's the idea. Some opposition parties have spoken about 3 months. I think the students' representatives have talked about 3 years. Perhaps it would, there's something between those two, timelines that could sort of actually be implementable. But we are just getting off the ground, and we have to see what really happens there. But clearly, it will take time. It is not going to be something that can be done immediately. There is a lot of effort that is needed to create the ground necessary for a restoration of democracy that is mandated by the people.
And you also get a sense that politics perhaps in Bangladesh will change from here.
Yes, I mean, politics will change, but at the same time, there's a tendency in politics to come full circle. So nothing can be ruled out, and nothing really can be taken for granted. I mean, it's very, very difficult to say. The situation is very fluid. what seems to be anathema today would be very, very acceptable tomorrow. And what would today seem acceptable would be completely ruled out, down the line. So I think that is something that we have to watch that space. We can't rule out anybody or any entity as of now.
Thank you for speaking to us this evening, Mr. Harshvardhan Shringla. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has extended best wishes to Professor Mohammad Yunus for his new responsibilities. He's written on X, and I quote, "My best wishes to Professor Mohammad Yunus on the assumption of his new responsibilities. We hope for an early return to normalcy, ensuring the safety and protection of Hindus and all other minority communities. India remains committed to working with Bangladesh to fulfill the shared aspirations of both our peoples for peace, security and development." Now, the Reserve Bank of India, which is India's central bank, has kept the benchmark repo rate steady on expected lines at 6.5% for the 9th consecutive meeting. This decision was made with a majority vote of 4-2 in the Monetary Policy Committee. Take a look at this report.
The Reserve Bank of India led Monetary Policy Committee on Thursday kept repo rate, which is the central bank's rate for short-term loans to banks, unchanged at 6.5% for the 9th time in a row.
It decided by a majority of 4:2 members to keep the policy repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. Consequently, the standing deposit facility rate remains at 6.25% and the marginal standing facility rate and the bank rate at 6.75%.
The RBI retained its GDP growth projection for fiscal year 2024-25 at 7.2%, and the consumer price index inflation forecast for fiscal year 2025 also maintained at 4.5%.
Real GDP growth for 2024-25, that is for the current year, is projected at 7.2%, with Q1 at 7.1%, Q2 at 7.2%, Q3 at 7.3%, and Q4 at 7.2%.
RBI Governor Shaktikant Das emphasized the need to remain vigilant against high food inflation, which has significant implications for households.
Domestic economic activity continues to be resilient. On the supply side, steady progress in southwest monsoon, higher cumulative Kharif sowing, and improving reservoir levels augur very well for the Kharif output. Manufacturing activity continues to gain ground on the back of improving domestic demand.
Niti Aayog member Arvind Virmani has said that the RBI GDP growth rate projection is in line with the current levels of economic activity.
From my perspective, the forecast is for policy, because I deal with policy, and therefore the uncertainty must be built into the forecast. So my forecast was and remains 7% plus minus 0.5%. Why plus minus? Because I know shocks will happen.
The industry also believes that there will be scope of rate cuts by the second half of fiscal year 2025.
By calendar year end of 2024, we could see some accommodation from the RBI monetary policy come through, but the policy pivot to the first cut is expected only in fourth quarter FY25.
Shaktikant Das highlighted that the Indian financial system is described as resilient with stable and well-capitalized banks and non-banking financial companies. The RBI also highlighted the importance of proactive risk management and the need for banks to mobilize household savings effectively to address liquidity challenges. Shama Mishra's report for DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now to get all the sporting updates, especially from the Paris Olympics. Now, India clinched their 4th Olympic medal at the Paris Olympic Games. The Indian men's hockey team won the bronze medal, defeating Spain 2-1 in what was India's 13th medal in hockey at the Olympic Games.
The Indian men's hockey team scripted history by clinching their 13th medal, most by any team in the history of Olympics. India outclassed Spain 2-1 to clinch bronze medal at the Paris 2024 Olympics on Thursday. This is overall the 4th bronze medal for the Indian hockey team at the Olympics. In fact, India won successive medals in hockey for the first time since the Munich Games in 1972. Repeating the success in consecutive Olympics is a milestone not seen since the 1968 and 1972 Games. Over 50 years ago, India clinched consecutive bronze medals, first by defeating West Germany 2-1 in 1968 and then by overcoming the Netherlands in 1972. This win also marked a befitting farewell to veteran goalkeeper P.R. Srijesh, who closed his glorious 2-decade-long international career serving India with distinction and deserved every bit of the dream's swan song. The committed Indian fans and family of the hockey team broke into celebrations with this historic triumph.
Actually, words cannot express the pride and joy that I feel now. Achieving a bronze medal for India in the retirement match is truly a reward for his passion and dedication for hockey. And I'm actually speechless. We all are proud of him. He had made us happy in so many unforgettable moments. We all are proud of him.
Heading into Paris 2024, India were the most successful hockey team in Olympic history with 8 gold medals, 1 silver and 3 bronze. At Tokyo 2020, the team had broken a 41-year medal drought by capturing a historic bronze. India won their first gold medal after beating the Netherlands 3-0 in the 1928 Olympics in Amsterdam and went on to dominate, winning gold medals in the 1932, 1936, 1948, 1952, 1956, 1964 and 1980 Olympics. In addition to their 8 gold medals, India claimed a silver medal in 1960 and 3 bronze medals in 1968 and 1972, and the previous Olympic Games in Tokyo in 2020. The Indian team might not have won a gold this time, but the bronze medal in Paris is a victory that carries a sweet sense of accomplishment. Narayan Singh's report, DD India, Paris.
Now, the President of India has posted about this victory on X as well, and she said, and I quote, India's men's hockey team wins bronze medal in Paris Olympic 2024. Heartiest congratulations to our hockey team for securing the bronze medal at the Paris Olympics. It is after over 5 decades that India has won bronze medals in back-to-back Olympic Games. The team deserves high praise for resurgence of Indian hockey. They've done India proud. The consistency, skills, cohesion and fighting spirit shown by this team will inspire our youth. Well done, Indian hockey team. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to the Indian hockey team and congratulated them on the bronze medal victory.
सर ये हरमन के पास है
सर नमस्कार नमस्कार सर शुक्रिया सर थैंक यू सर थैंक यू जी सर
मैं आपको और पूरी टीम को बहुत बहुत बधाई
शुक्रिया सर थैंक यू
बहुत भारत का नाम रोशन किया आपने और आपको याद होगा मैंने टोक्यो में कहा था आपको
जी सर
कि आपने पराजय की पूरी श्रृंखला को तोड़ा है
जी सर
और अब आपके नेतृत्व में और आपकी पूरी टीम के प्रयासों से इस बार भी हमने प्रगति की है और मुझे पक्का विश्वास है कि अब हॉकी क्योंकि वो पुराना जो स्वर्णिम काल था वो फिर से आप लोग वापस लेके आएंगे तो मुझे पक्का विश्वास हो गया है
जी बिल्कुल सर बिल्कुल लेके आएंगे सर थैंक यू सर
हमारे श्रीजे से
जी सर
घोषित कर दी है
जी साथ में ही सर कर लीजिए सर
हेलो सर
श्रीजेश है वहाँ
यस सर श्रीजेश बात कर रहा हूँ सर
कैसे हो भैया
एकदम बढ़िया सर कंग्रेचुलेशन सर
बधाई हो आपको
थैंक यू सर थैंक यू
आपकी कब आपने निवृत्ति घोषित कर दी आखिरी व्यक्ति
यस सर
लेकिन आपको नई टीम तैयार करनी होगी भैया
यस सर
देखिए मैं एक बार तो आज जरूर कहना चाहूंगा 10 खिलाड़ियों के साथ ब्रिटेन की लड़ाई आपकी मुझे लगता है हिंदुस्तान का हॉकी को समझने वाला हर बच्चा इसको हमेशा याद रखेगा
थैंक यू सर
और इसको एक उदाहरण के रूप में माना जाएगा और मैं मानता हूँ कि दुनिया में भी हॉकी की चर्चा होगी
Yes, sir.
ये आपकी क्वार्टर फाइनल की मैच का तो जरूर जिक्र आएगा।
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
और मैं सच बता दूं, अच्छा टीम स्पिरिट भी दिखाई दिया और आपने बिल्कुल जमकर के, और मैं देखा कि एक बार हारने के बाद थोड़ा मोरल डाउन हो जाता है, लेकिन आपने 24 घंटे में फिर से अपने आप को रिकवर करके तुरंत आके फिर निकल पड़े आप लोग।
Yes, sir.
जी सर।
देखिए, देश को बड़ा गर्व हो रहा है आप लोगों पर, और मेरी तरफ से बहुत बहुत बधाई है सबको।
Thank you very much, sir.
सबकी तबीयत तो ठीक है ना, कोई इंजरी नहीं हुई ना?
नहीं सर, सब एकदम बढ़िया सर, सब लोग इधर आपको सुन रहे सर, सब खुश है, सब आपका कॉल का इंतजार में था सर।
मैं सबको मेरी तरफ से बहुत बहुत बधाई दे रहा भैया।
भारत माता की
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. महाराज की जय सर।
Thank you, sir.
चलिए सरपंच साहब, बहुत बहुत बधाई देते हैं।
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
And India's Sports Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia also congratulated the Indian hockey team for bringing home a bronze medal. He posted on X again, and I quote, "Congratulations to the Indian hockey team for winning the bronze medal at Paris 2024. Your exceptional performance and teamwork have showcased the best of Indian sports. This victory is a proud moment for the nation and a testament to your dedication." Now, Tokyo Olympics gold medalist Neeraj Chopra will compete in the men's javelin throw final. Chopra aims to make history at the Paris Olympics. If he secures a gold medal or any medal, he'll become one of the most decorated Indians in individual Olympic sports. Chopra stormed into the men's javelin throw final after he produced an 89.34 meters throw on his very first attempt to breach the direct qualification standard of 84 meters. So that's something to look forward to, and that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those who don't go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. You can scan the QR code on the screen and download the app now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.